You're listening to Keeping It 100 with Mel and Bruce, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. What they see is what they'll be. I'm Mel Tiller, your host. I'm thrilled to be with you today. And my special guest today is David Orentlicher, and he is an assemblyman. He represents District 20. And guess what? He wants to run again. He likes his job and he wants to keep it. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a real privilege to serve in the legislature, and I'm hope to be able to go back and continue working on behalf of Nevada.
Talk to me. Why do you want to run again?
Sure. We've made a lot of progress on important issues like funding for K through 12 education and access to health care. There's always more to do, and I want to continue working on behalf of my constituents and everybody in the state. An area of particular interest to me is healthcare because my background is in medicine. I started practicing internal medicine and then got interested in the legal and ethical issues in medicine. So I went to law school. And so between those two backgrounds, medicine and law has led me to specialize in health policy. I teach at UNLV at the law school and some at the medical school. And a lot of my research is how we can improve our healthcare system. And a lot of the things I've studied, I want to bring to the legislature.
All right, that's fantastic. Talk to me specifically, what have you done that says to the people of your district that they should send you back again?
Sure. Well, as I said, one of the things we did this past session was to increase K through 12 funding, biggest increase ever. It was about a 25% increase to make sure we have adequate resources for our kids because they're our future.
Yes.
We've also passed the public option to make healthcare more affordable. We've done one of the areas that I'm interested in is to address the problem with opioid use and other drugs. And one of the things we know is that people need treatment. There's very good treatments available now, medications to treat substance use problems. But there are a lot of people who can benefit from the medications don't have access. Nationwide, only about 25% of people who can benefit from these treatments actually have access. So a bill we passed that I sponsored was to allow specially trained pharmacists to diagnose and prescribe for substance abuse disorders. And so for people who don't have access to a physician, they can go to their pharmacy. And the other nice thing about being able to go to a pharmacy is there are 24-hour, 7-day-a-week pharmacies. So there's better access, less expensive access. And when we get that up and rolling, we'll be in a much better position to address the problem of substance use. That's really a serious issue in Nevada.
A very serious issue. For people who want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Great question. And please do reach out to me. My phone number is 702-773-7302. Again, 702-773-7302. And for email, they can email me at david@davido4, spell out F-O-R, nevada.com.
Talk to me from your perspective. What are the largest challenges facing Nevada today?
Well, while we've made a lot of progress in improvements in education, we still have a ways to go. And so continuing to make sure that we have the best school system that we can give our kids, making sure that.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, David. Okay, so we can say that we made a lot of progress. We can talk about the best school system that we can give our kids. CCSD is last. Okay, I mean we're at the bottom. So how are you going to significantly change that situation. Everybody appreciates what's been done.
Sure.
Nevada is Las Vegas is still at the bottom. That should be an embarrassment to not just every legislator, but every citizen of this city and state. We should be embarrassed with all the money that's being made on the strip. Strip literally prints money, all the leading things that Las Vegas does. We can talk about entertainment. We can talk about food. We can talk about the strip and how magnificent it is. There's no place in the world like it. And our kids, our school system is last. Tell me how you're going to make that better, because most people feel last isn't even close to being as good as we can do. We do great things here in Vegas. We say we're Las Vegas. And when we say that, when we're talking about our kids, we're talking about being dead last. How are you going to help that?
Well, we've made progress, and the things we can do to continue and make sure we do have the school system our kids deserve is to make sure that there's universal access to pre-K education, that early education makes a big difference, making sure we have reasonable class sizes, that we want to make sure that that teachers can teach every student in the class. So making sure we get our class size down. And another thing that we did pass that will bear fruit in the coming years is to develop a better career development pathway for people who are interested in teaching, to get them introduced into teaching early in high school, so that we can make sure that the students who are interested in teaching, they know how to get into the system, and we can cultivate them earlier and train them earlier. So there are things we can do, and that we are going to do, and that will make a difference. So I'm optimistic about that. And some of the other areas that, as I mentioned, healthcare, that we've done a lot to improve access to healthcare, but it's still not affordable for everybody. And so that's one of my priorities, is to address the high cost of healthcare, whether it's the prescription drugs that can be unaffordable for people, making sure that if you need insulin or other drugs, that you can afford them, and that if you go to the hospital, you don't come out with a bill that's too high to pay. So and then another area that we worked on and will continue is to make sure housing is more affordable, because that's become a real problem in Nevada and other states. And so we increased our funding subsidies for people who need rent subsidies. We're streamlining the process. We streamlined the process for approval of new housing, affordable housing projects, and we also increased funding for to build new affordable housing. So those are the things that are critical and that we're working on and will continue to work on.
So you're a politician. Your life revolves around politics. What do you say to people when we look around the world and democracy is literally being attacked? We see Russia attacking Ukraine. We see this tremendous problem with Israel and Hamas, where nobody's hands are really clean, but a lot of folks are dying. We see President Trump running again. We see those issues where a lot of people now don't seem to believe in democracy and are openly fighting to end democracy. What do you say about those kinds of world conditions?
Yeah, overall, we've made a lot of progress. And when you look at the number of countries that have become democratic compared to 50 years ago, there's been an important progress there. But to see some of the backsliding in Europe is worrisome, like as in Hungary and with Putin in Russia. So we need to do better. And part of it is, as a the United States, we need to make sure we're setting the right example in who we elect, and having President Biden instead of President Trump has been very helpful, because it's hard for us to tell other countries how to improve their democracies and their governments if we're not walking the walk. And so making sure we elect the right officials who are committed to democratic principles is important. And we also need to think about ways, changes in our system to make sure that everybody feels represented, that has a voice. When you look at places like Russia, right? The typical Russian isn't represented by Vladimir Putin, and the typical Hungarian not by Orban. And in our country, we have places where people don't feel they have a voice either. So we need to make sure that we make changes and in ways to ensure that everybody has a voice. And not everybody's going to get what people aren't going to get everything they want, but we need to make sure they're heard, and that everybody wins some of the time.
David, you seem to be a real positive guy. I greatly appreciate you spending time with us today. What would you like to leave our listening audience with?
Well, so here's an important thing. We're not coming back in session in the legislature in Carson City until February 2025. But what we're doing now is planning. We have committees, just like the committees that meet during the session are meeting. We call them interim committees: health, judiciary, education. And what we're doing now is planning for 2025. So if you have ideas for bills, things you'd like us to do when we come back in 2025, now's the time to tell us, because that gives us time to think about it, prepare it. It's much harder to develop a proposal once the session starts. So this is the ideal time to reach out to me and other legislators with your ideas, so we can work on them and get them ready for the 2025 session.
Thank you so much, David, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, his name is David Orentlicher, and he wants to be the Assemblyman for District 20 one more time. He's the incumbent, and he's running again. You've been listening to Keeping It 100 with Mel and Bruce, sponsored by the 100 Black Men of Las Vegas. What they see is what they'll be. I'm Mel Tiller, your host, and until next time, keep it 100.